This is the AB4WS radio show. Every week, bringing you the exciting amateur radio news and information happening in the greater Cincinnati, Ohio, Kentucky, and Indiana areas.
The AB4WS radio show can be found on the Apple Podcast app or your favorite podcast application. Are you ready for the eclipse? Ever thought how ham radio might be affected by the eclipse? Well, here is Mark Stephen Williams, K9GX, with some more information on what Hamfests is doing to see all the effects the eclipse has on ham radio.
Well, the April 8th total solar eclipse is about a week away now, and there are two major operating events which you can participate in: the Solar Eclipse QSO Party and the Gladstone Signal Spotting Challenge. The SEQP and the GSSC are part of the Hamfests Festivals of Eclipse Ionospheric Science. Members of the Hamfests, the Ham Radio Science Citizen Investigation, along with the ham radio community, will be creating data for researchers by transmitting, receiving, and recording signals across the HF spectrum. Upon analysis, the data should inform researchers how the ionosphere reacted to the eclipse. The data will be compared to existing computer models of the ionosphere, potentially improving the accuracy of those models. Researchers will also be looking at how the ionosphere refractive properties varied during the beginning and ending phases of the eclipse. The SEQP and Gladstone Signal Spotting Challenge will be run on April 8th from 1400 to 2400 Universal. Participants are encouraged to operate before, during, and after the eclipse passes over the continental U.S. Doing so will create baseline data pre- and post-eclipse and eclipse influence data for the research team. Objective is to generate observations of propagation by the Reverse Beacon Network and PSK Reporter, event logs before, during, and after the eclipse on the amateur bands for the purpose of ionospheric sounding. Solar Eclipse Party, SEQP, is unique among ham radio competitions as it awards points for two-way QSOs and bonus points for reception reports from skimmers, RBN modes, and the like. Adam Goodman, Whiskey 7 Oscar Kilo Echo, is president at Whiskey 8 Echo Delta Uniform, the Case Western University Club Station in Cleveland. Adam, will W8EDU be QRV in the SEQP and collecting data on the CHU monitoring project all at the same time?
We're hoping that we'll be able to basically have both data sets. Obviously, we'll have to be a bit careful of making sure that we're not transmitting, for example, right next to a CHU receiver, because there's going to be some nice interference there. But
don't QRMCHU, for heaven's sakes.
Yeah, no, I mean, as club president, I describe my job these days as playing RF rush hour. We want to participate in both. No, I mean, I'm serious. We want to participate in both CHU monitoring and the Eclipse QSO party. So we're moving our CHU monitoring station to a farm inside of what's basically an old pig barn. Out in the outskirts of Cleveland, and we're going to be participating in the Eclipse QSO party from our campus, so we can get as many people as possible involved in transmitting.
Adam, I'm sorry. I gotta say, you're saying you're going to send hams to a pig barn? I'm sorry, I couldn't.
Oh, yep, yeah. That's one of our jokes.
I'm sorry, I couldn't help it.
Yeah. So. And we're not even the weirdest. We're not even the weirdest setup. So it's all been a lot of fun. And at the end of the day, we're all going to be able to gather some really good data for the citizen science questions of ham radio.
The Gladstone Signal Spotting Challenge is a unique event for those who enjoy operating beacons, CW and digital, and the propagation study modes of Whisper, WSPR, and FST4W, both transmit and receive. Signals generated and received during the GSSC will help create research-worthy spot data under controlled ionospheric conditions during the solar eclipse. The event is named in honor of Philip Gladstone, creator of PSK Reporter. You may enter the SEQSO party as a single operator, just one transmitted signal emitted for the purpose of making two-way QSOs. Multi-op, one or more transmitters, only one transmitted signal per band and mode, emitted for the purpose of making two-way QSOs, or a check log, and there are no band-specific or mode-specific categories. All entries will default to mixed mode and all bands. Bands, frequencies, and modes for two-way QSOs will be on 160, 40, 20, 15, 10, and 6-meter bands using CW, SSB, and all varieties of digital. Plenty of activity is expected on CW and SSB tunes for stations calling CQ, SEQP near the 38s. In other words, on CW, plus or minus 10 kilohertz from 3538, 7038, 14038, etc. On sideband, plus or minus 25 kilohertz at 3838, 7238, 14328, 21338, and 28338. Activity on digital modes will be close to the usual activity centers, but please spread out. Accurate signal report. The exchange should be an accurate signal report and your 4-character grid square. You may use any logging software that supports the Solar Eclipse QSO party, and the N1MM Plus contest logger natively supports the SEQP as log type Eclipse. Logging software that supports the ARRL VHF contest exchange format, signal report, and grid square can also be used. Logs should be submitted in Cabrillo format to the SEQP log robot. Complete information on the SEQSO Party and Gladstone Signal Spotting Challenge is available at hamsci.org/contest information. By the way, CHU transmits a 3 kilowatt signal at 3.33 and 14.67 megahertz and a 5 kilowatt signal at 7.85 megahertz. These non-standard time signal frequencies were chosen to avoid interference with WWV and WWVH. I want to thank Adam, Whiskey 7 Oscar Kilo Echo, and Dr. David Kasdan, Alpha Delta 8 Yankee, for taking the time to talk with me about HamSci, the Eclipse QSO Party, and Gladstone Signal Spotting Challenge. This is Mark, Kilowatt 9, Germany X-Ray 73.
All right, thank you so much, in 73.
The Letcher County Amateur Radio Club has 2 new technician class operators who passed their test and got their licenses. Thomas Mullins, KQ4QDB of Pike County, Kentucky, and Reese Sexton, KQ4QDC of Blackley, Kentucky. Congratulations and welcome to the fantastic hobby of ham radio. Wednesday, April 3rd is the 50th anniversary of the 1974 Super Outbreak, with tornadoes that had touched down, causing great damage in Sailor Park and Xenia, Ohio. Do you remember where you were on April 3rd, 1974? Well, the OHKYIN Amateur Radio Society will be hosting a 50th anniversary net at 7 p.m. on April 3rd on the 146.670 repeater with a PL tone of 123.0. The net will solicit your memories and experiences on that fateful day. Come share your memories of this event with others and hear how these weather events affected them. The net will conclude at 8 p.m. in order to allow for the scheduled tri-state traffic net. The OHKYIN Amateur Radio Society wants to remind everyone that the deadline to pay your 2024 dues is up on April 1st. If you have not paid your dues, you will lose the members-only privileges to your membership. So get that membership dues in today before you forget. On April 6th, listen out for the second official Mammoth Cave Amateur Radio Club Parks on the Air event at the Barren River Lake Resort Park, 1149 State Park Road in Lucas, Kentucky, starting at 10 a.m. Central Time. They invite anyone interested in amateur radio to come out and join in on the fun. If you cannot make it, listen out for them on the bands and make a contact. On April 13th, the University of Cincinnati Amateur Radio Club, W8YX, and the Ohio State University Amateur Radio Club will join together for the first ever joint Parks on the Air event at Cowan Lake State Park in Wilmington, Ohio. Listen out for these school clubs to be on the air in the park. The OHKYIN Group is looking for amateur radio operators to volunteer to help in the Xenia Marathon on April 7th. The race starts at 8 a.m. and expected to end 6 hours later. Amateur radio operators will report on race progress like lead runners, runner density, the tail end, and obviously all emergencies like runner injuries, logistical issues, and assist the course marshals. Volunteers are expected to utilize their 2-meter transceiver with a good antenna, spare batteries, and earphones are also recommended. The event will utilize the OHKYIN repeater on 147.165 with a PL tone of 123.0. If you don't have a radio, a loaner transceiver possibly can be provided. If you would like to volunteer for the event, please contact Bob, N8ADO, at N8ADO@WH.RR.com. The Brunch Bunch will be meeting on April 13th at 1 p.m. at the Sugar and Spice, 4381 Reading Road, next door to Cincinnati Fire Station number 9. Steve, NATFD, is looking for volunteers for this year's Flying Pig Marathon with activities May 1st through May 5th. The volunteer website is up and going at flyingpigmarathon.volunteerlocal.com. Use the password of HAM. If you have any questions or problems, reach out to Steve, NATFD, at natfd@fuse.net.
Do you know where the action's at?
On Tuesday nights at 8:30 p.m., the action is on the 146.79 repeater, where the Northern Kentucky Amateur Radio Club is holding their weekly net on the WB4WS repeater on 146.79 with a PL tone of 123.0. Some nights Matt will connect the repeater to Echolink. Look for K4NKU-L. Each week you have a different club member take on the duties of being net control. I encourage everyone to take a turn at being net control. It is a great learning experience that everyone should take a shot at. You'll be amazed at how well you do and what you learn operating as a net control. If you're interested, email Al, WB8RGE, the net manager for the Northern Kentucky Amateur Radio Club, at WB8RGE@gmail.com. And remember, tune in to 146.79 on Tuesday nights at 8:30 p.m. for the Northern Kentucky Amateur Radio Club net, because that's where the action is.
Repeater news.
A couple of new repeaters are on the air in Lexington, Kentucky with a new 11.5 dBi antenna and a 100 feet of 1/2 inch hardline for the 444.875 repeater with a PL tone of 67 Hz. There's also a new LMR 400 feed line on the 224.800 repeater. The installation of the new 900 MHz repeater is next on the agenda for the Bluegrass Amateur Radio Club. For all the APRS users out there, the Milford Amateur Radio Club has installed a new digipeater and iGate at the main repeater site. Go to milfordhamradio.org and check out the dashboard to see if your APRS signal is being heard. The WW4KY repeater group and David AD4CC has moved the 441.800 with a PL tone of 179.9 repeater from Northern Kentucky University to Walton, Kentucky. Currently it's on a 4-bay dipole on a pole 38 feet above the ground, but soon David will be installing a substantial tower in Walton, Kentucky to better facilitate the coverage. So tune that radio into 441.800 and let's see what that coverage area is.
Hamfests.
On April 6th, the Lincoln Trail Amateur Radio Club will host the 46th Annual Elizabethtown Hamfest from 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. at 630 College Street Road in Elizabethtown, Kentucky. For more information or to reserve a table, contact ENGINR@comcast.net or call 270-777-2394. On April 13th, the Cuyahoga Falls Amateur Radio Club will celebrate the 68th Hamfest Electronic and Computer Show from 8 a.m. to 1 p.m. at the Amamteur & Sons Party Center, 48 East Bass Street in Cuyahoga Falls, Ohio. Check in on the 147.27 or the 444.85 repeaters. April 13th is the Mid-Ohio Valley Amateur Radio Club Hamfest at the Fellowship of Faith Church, 20344 State Route 554 in Bidwell, Ohio. April 13th is the Columbus, Indiana Hamfest at the Columbus North High School Cafeteria, 1400 25th Street in Columbus, Indiana. Talking on the 146.79 repeater with a 103.5 PL tone. April 27th is the Tusco Amateur Radio Club Hamfest at the Tuscarawas County Fairgrounds, 259 South Tuscarawas Avenue in Dover, Ohio. April 28th is the Athens Hamfest at the Athens Community Center, 701 East State Street in Athens, Ohio. May 5th is the Lucas County Aries Trunk Sale and Swap Meet at the Toledo Speedway, 5639 Benore Road in Toledo, Ohio. Starting on May 11th and running through May 16th is the RV Radio Network Hamfest at the Berlin RV Park, 5898 State Route 39 in Millersburg, Ohio. Talk in on 146.520 Simplex. May 17th through May 19th is the granddaddy of all Hamfests, the Dayton Hamvention at the Greene County Fairgrounds, 210 Fairgrounds Road in Xenia, Ohio.
Are you looking to upgrade your license? Do you have someone else that's interested in the hobby? Here are some upcoming exam opportunities.
The Milford Amateur Radio Club holds amateur radio testing on the third Thursday of each month at 6 p.m. at the Miami Township Civic Center, 6101 Meyer Drive in Milford, Ohio. Please pre-register at milfordhamradio.org. The Dayton Amateur Radio Association has exams frequently. For their exam schedule, email exams.w8bi@gmail.com. On April 6th, the Silver Creek Amateur Radio Society will hold an amateur radio exam session at the Sharon Center, 6407 Ridge Road in Wadsworth, Ohio. Pre-registration is required at w8wky.org/license-exams. On April 13th, the Cuyahoga Falls Amateur Radio Club will hold a testing session at the Cuyahoga Falls Amateur Radio Hamfest at the Amita & Sons Party Center, 48 East Bath Road in Cuyahoga Falls, Ohio. Starting at 9 a.m., pre-registration is required at www.cfarc-edu.org/registration or call 330-928-8921. On April 13th at 10 a.m., the Westchester Amateur Radio Association will be hosting an amateur radio exam session at 10 a.m. at the Voice of America Museum, 8070 Tylerville Road in Westchester, Ohio. Please pre-register at hamstudy.org/sessions/WC8VOA. On April 15th, the Northern Kentucky Amateur Radio Club will hold an amateur radio exam session at 5:30 p.m. at the Bethesda Community Church, 989 East Mount Zion Road in Independence, Kentucky. Pre-registration is required. Email Mark Volstad at mvolstad@twc.com. On April 18th at 6 p.m., the Milford Amateur Radio Club will be hosting an amateur radio exam session at the Miami Township Civic Center, 6101 Meyer Drive in Milford, Ohio. Please pre-register at milfordhamradio.org. On April 20th, the Dial Amateur Radio Club will hold an amateur radio testing session at 9 a.m. at the Fairfield Township Administration Building, 6032 Morris Road in Hamilton, Ohio. Go to www.qsl.net/W8BLV and click on exams. For more information, contact Thurl Golden, KD8VLU at 513-939-4891. On May 11th, the Westchester Amateur Radio Association will hold an exam session at 10 a.m. at the Voice of America Museum, 8070 Tylersville Road in Westchester, Ohio. Pre-register at hamstudy.org/sessions/WC8VOA. June 8th, the Westchester Amateur Radio Association will hold an amateur radio exam session at 10 a.m. at the Voice of America Museum, 8070 Tylersville Road in Westchester, Ohio. Pre-registration is required at hamstudy.org/sessions/WC8VOA. On June 8th at 10 a.m., there'll be an amateur radio license exam session at the Georgetown Police Department, 550 Bourbon Street in Georgetown, Kentucky. Please pre-register at hamstudy.org/sessions/WX4GPS. Special thanks to this week's content contributors: KE4WA, K9GX, KY4GW, WB8YYS, KD8ZLD, K9HIO, N8LAR, K4NKU.
If you have something you think other amateur radio operators in the area would be interested in, send the information or your recorded audio file attached in an email to ab4ws.radio@gmail.com.
Covering your amateur radio news and information in the greater Cincinnati, Ohio, Kentucky, and Indiana tri-state area. This is Jack Prindle, AB4WS in Big Bone, Kentucky.